Hello, friends! Welcome to a world where dragons rule the skies, and humans pay for peace with their own blood. Where one alliance can save a kingdom, or destroy it forever. My name is Karina, and I'm glad to see you on my channel. Today, this is a story about a princess who fought dragons, and became the bride of their emperor. About love that arose where there should have been only hatred. Make yourselves comfortable. Our story begins. She spent years at war with dragons, creatures that destroyed her kingdom and took her people. So when the dragon emperor Cypher offers peace in exchange for her hand, Lauraai realizes that this marriage contract is a trap. But her father accepts the offer before she can refuse. Suddenly, the princess who fought dragons finds herself in the emperor's palace as his future bride, armed with a secret plan to stop him once and for all. But Lauraai is not the only princess there. 9 women have been summoned for the favor of the Dragon Emperor. Not because he wants a wife, but because he needs a mate, a woman capable of giving him an heir. Now Lauraai is not just pretending to marry her enemy. She is competing for him. She must get close enough to share his bed, close enough to act. Unfortunately, every moment in his presence feels tense, intimate, as if they are both struggling with a desire they cannot fully control. And the longer Lauraai plays this role, the harder it becomes to resist the pull toward her enemy. She tells herself it is enchantment, a trick, a spell, anything but the truth. Because if this attraction is not magic, then it may be fate, and that will change everything. Chapter 1. With a glass of champagne in hand, standing in the grand ballroom of the Dragon Emperor's palace, Princess Lauraai tried not to think about how many of the people around her might not be human at all. That was the problem with dragons. You couldn't tell by appearance. The man in burgundy velvet, dragon or human. The woman in emerald silk, dragon or human? Impossible to know until they changed form. And by then, it was usually too late. For most of her life, Lauraai hadn't even known that dragons could take human form. As far as the human kingdoms knew, dragons were monsters, winged creatures that took their victims and burned villages. Then the Dragon Emperor sent envoys, who spoke of dragon cities in the clouds, of a civilization surpassing anything humans could imagine, and offered peace. The human kingdoms were skeptical, but the Dragon Emperor was persuasive, offering territories, wealth, protection. He opened trade routes and promised in writing that the sacrifices would stop. Human or dragon, it doesn't matter, her brother Caspian whispered. They're all here to celebrate your engagement. Laura snorted. 6 months ago we were at war. War? Caspian smiled. More like humans trembling and offering their daughters as sacrifices to be left alone. Right, so essentially nothing has changed. We're all still afraid. You're about to be sacrificed, Caspian concluded. Though the Emperor plans to marry you, not eat you alive. One difference, Lauraai muttered. A marriage contract. That was what the dragons needed to agree to peace, specifically with Lauraai, which made no sense at all. She had even laughed when her father told her about it. It must be a trick. Perhaps, but their emperor is offering a real peace treaty and has promised that the sacrifices will stop. Lauraai's chest tightened. She immediately thought of Elvina, her maid, her friend, who had just turned 16 when her name was drawn. Lauraai had tried to free her with nothing but a sword and desperate courage. It hadn't been enough. What does he want in return? You, as his empress. Lauraai stared in shock. And what will happen when he realizes I can't bear him children? Because that was the reality. Lauraai was barren because of a dragon that struck her when she tried to save Elvina. Her short marriage had ended in annulment. "You are human," her father said. "He probably does not expect you to give him an heir." "Then what does he expect? A pretty decoration? This is our chance, Lauraai, to secure peace." She ran to her chambers. Caspian found her an hour later. "I think it's a trap," he said. "The Dragon Emperor suddenly wants peace, wants to marry a human woman he has never seen. They've been taking our people for centuries. Why would that suddenly stop?" He was right. "Father will accept the offer," she said quietly. "I know. So the question is, what are you going to do about it?" 2 months later, Lauraai arrived in the dragon capital with her brother at her side, and a necklace around her neck that, she hoped, contained enough dragon poison to kill the most powerful creature in the world. No one except Lauraai's family even knew such a poison existed. And somewhere in this palace, the Dragon Emperor was preparing to make his appearance. Her hand moved to the necklace when the music stopped. Someone was announcing, "His Imperial Majesty, Cipher of House Ignis, Emperor of the 5 Kingdoms, Lord of the Eternal Flame." Lauraai stopped listening. Her heart was pounding. The guards lined up, and she felt the temperature drop as something ancient crossed the threshold. She had prepared for something terrible. But she was not prepared for the beautiful man in the doorway, for his sharp cheekbones, or his mouth, indecent in its perfection. A full lower lip, the upper one curved with a slight cruelty that made her stomach tighten. He was tall, easily a head taller than any man in the hall, with shoulders so broad that her first thought was what it would feel like to be pressed against that chest. Her mouth went dry, and Lauraai's hand clenched around the necklace, gripping the sapphire so tightly that the metal bit into her palm. He was a dragon, a monster. This attraction had to be magic. Dragons could do that, couldn't they? Cipher entered the ballroom, greeting people with polite nods. His expression remained distant, bored, until his gaze found her across the hall. The noise vanished. There was only him and those burning eyes fixed on her. Her knees nearly gave way. The Emperor stopped, his eyes widening, his lips parting, his body going still as if he had just been struck. His mouth curved into a smile. He held her gaze for one more heartbeat, then turned away, continuing through the crowd. Lauraai stood motionless, her pulse pounding in her temples. What was that? A servant appeared at her elbow. "Princess, please come with me." The servant led her to the eastern wall, where other women were already gathering. Beautiful women in luxurious gowns, all looking confused. She recognized Princess Annabella of Ambrose, Lady Selena of Cray. Were these all the human princesses? "Please stand here, Your Highness." Now they were lined up, 10 of them, all beautiful, all noble. Lauraai's stomach tightened. She found Caspian in the crowd, his face tense with anger. "Nervous?" Annabella asked. "You should be." Lauraai's jaw tightened. "Excuse me?" "May the best woman win." "Win what?" But the crowd was already parting, the Dragon Emperor approaching them, and Lauraai's world narrowed. This is not my engagement ball. Cipher stopped in front of them. Up close, he was even more stunning. Lauraai stood fifth in line, close enough to see his gaze move over each of them. "Welcome, princesses of the human kingdoms." His voice was deep and commanding. Princesses, plural. "You are all invited here under the pretense of a political alliance. I thank you for agreeing, and for that reason, I must be honest about the true nature of this gathering." Lauraai's hands curled into fist. "I need a mate, for only a true mating bond can produce an heir, and such bonds cannot be forced. They either exist or they do not." He paused. For decades, I have searched among other dragons, but recently, one dragon king found his mate in a human woman. I could hardly believe it, but decided there was no harm in trying. Tonight, I will not choose a bride. Instead, I will accept willing participants as my consorts, court each of you in turn, and if any of you forms a mating bond with me and proves capable of giving me an heir, she will become my empress. The ballroom erupted, gasps, whispers, and Lauraai stood frozen with her mouth open. She had come here thinking she was the chosen bride of the emperor, only to become one of many. Humiliation burned, and worse, the memory of how she had looked at him when he entered, how her body had reacted. He had probably assumed she was just another desperate princess seeking a crown. Heat flooded her face. Cypher was already moving down the line. Before she could stop herself, the words slipped out. Is this how dragons choose mares? The hall fell into dead silence. Cypher's brows rose, but Lauraai continued. What next? Will you check our teeth? Someone behind her gasped. Cypher tilted his head, his smile widening. Do you object to the process, princess? Lauraai of Kelora. And yes, perhaps this will surprise you, but women do not enjoy being displayed like livestock. Cypher took a step closer. And yet you came here willingly, did you not? I was told this was an engagement, a political alliance, not a competition for your bed. Cypher's smile turned predatory. Then he addressed the hall. I have made my decision for this evening. Everyone held their breath. Tonight, I will meet with one of you in private, if Her Royal Highness, of course, agrees. All the women tensed. Cypher let the silence stretch. Then his gaze found Lauraai again, intense, focused, as if she were the only person in the room. Her breath caught as he stepped forward. Just one step, but deliberate. His lips parted. The crowd leaned in. He's going to say my name, Lauraai thought, as Cypher held her gaze, then smiled and turned away. Princess Annabella of Ambrose. Lauraai's thoughts went blank. Annabella stepped forward. Your Majesty, it is an honor. Cypher extended his hand. Shall we? He didn't even look at Lauraai. He simply passed her by as if she were invisible. To humiliate her, to punish her for her audacity. She had come here with a simple plan, to become his chosen bride, get close, strike when he was vulnerable. Now she was just one of the candidates in a competition she had not been prepared for. She had come here to kill the Dragon Emperor, but she would not be able to do it unless she first managed to seduce him. Chapter 2. Lauraai paced her chambers like a caged animal, still in her ball gown, which now felt like a costume of her own humiliation. He looked right at me, she complained, smiled, took a step toward me, and then left with Annabella. Caspian stood against the wall, arms crossed. Does it matter whom he chose? Lauraai spun toward him sharply. Of course it matters. How am I supposed to lure him if he's spending time with another woman? She forced herself to inhale. The plan was to get close to him. I can't do that from a distance, right? Caspian nodded. But he will choose you eventually. Be patient. Patient? Laura groaned. The humiliation still burned in her veins, hot and biting. And he thinks he's so clever, she muttered, with his stupidly beautiful face. No one looks like that naturally. Caspian's brows lifted. Should I be worried? Lauraai shot him a look. He's using a spell, obviously, to weaken defenses. Those ridiculous cheekbones and his perfectly tousled hair. Sister. And did you see his shoulders? Or his sapphire eyes? Lauraai crossed her arms. That whole appearance is designed to make women stupid. but it won't work on me." "Of course," Caspian said slowly, clearly unconvinced. Lauraai took a deep breath. The anger began to fade, leaving something heavier behind. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I just need this to work." For a moment, they were simply brother and sister again. "Do you remember Elvina?" Lauraai asked. "Your maid?" "Of course." "I couldn't save her. She was only 16. And then father practically handed me over to them." Her voice hardened. Despite everything they had done, the rage surged back. "I need to kill this emperor. He commands them all. Every dragon, every sacrifice, it all comes from him. If I can't have children, if I couldn't save Elvina, then at least I can put an end to this." Caspian squeezed her shoulder. "You can. We just need to get close to him." A sharp knock on the door made them both freeze. "Come in," Lauraai said. A servant entered, bowing deeply. "Princess Lauraai, His Imperial Majesty requests your presence." Laurai's heart leapt. "At once, Your Highness, if you would follow me." She stood, smoothing her dress with hands that wanted to tremble. "Lead the way." Her hand slipped to the necklace at her throat. "Don't wait up," she said to Caspian with a smirk. "Be careful," he replied. At the door, Lauraai paused. If everything went wrong, if Cypher discovered the poison, if this was a trap. But she couldn't think like that. She followed the servant through the palace corridors, which seemed endless. Dragon motifs everywhere, carved into the walls, woven into tapestries, inlaid with gold. Why had he summoned her now, after choosing Annabella? They climbed higher and higher up the stairs, the corridors growing narrower, private quarters. "They're going to his chambers," she realized, and her stomach flipped. This was exactly what she needed. Privacy, a chance to get close. But it also meant being alone with him, with those eyes and that body that had almost made her forget why she had come. "Focus," she told herself. "You are stronger than dragon magic." The servant stopped at massive carved doors. "His Majesty is inside, Princess." She bowed and quickly left. Behind those doors was the Dragon Emperor, the man who commanded all dragons, who was responsible for Elvina, for her barrenness, for centuries of human suffering, and who also happened to be the most beautiful man in the world. She touched the necklace one last time and pushed the doors open. She saw a massive fireplace, a giant bed, and then movement by the window. Cypher stood with his back to her, a silhouette against the starlight, and he was shirtless. "This is not fair," Lauraai thought, staring at his back. He turned slowly, and Lauraai felt as if her brain shut down. His chest was sculpted as though he didn't just command armies, he trained with them. Firelight slid over bare skin, over muscles that moved with every breath. She snapped her gaze back up to his face, feeling herself burn. He was watching her, those glowing eyes tracking every moment of her gaze. "Princess Lauraai," he said with a slight smirk, "I'm glad you could join me." He took a step toward her, and Laurai's mouth went dry. "Stop looking at his abs," she thought. "Stop looking at his abs." "Your Majesty." Her mind finally formed words. "You summoned me." "Yes." Another step. He stopped very close. Close enough to touch if she stepped forward. Close enough to see the faint glow beneath his skin, the rise and fall of his chest. Lauraai swallowed hard. The plan. Seduce him. Get close. Strike. But how was she supposed to seduce someone when all she could think about was what it would feel like to touch those perfect lips? "Tell me, Princess," Cypher posed. "Do I make you nervous?" And Lauraai suddenly realized with frightening clarity that she was in serious danger. Chapter 3. "Where is the other princess?" she heard her own voice ask. Annabella, the one you chose. The words slipped out before she could stop them, and she immediately regretted it. Cypher's brow arched, a knowing smile appearing on his lips. Jealous, princess? Lauraai straightened. More concerned. She lifted her chin. How am I supposed to know you didn't eat her? Cypher looked genuinely offended. I would not eat a human, he said quite seriously. My body is a temple. Lauraai gasped, half in shock, half in indignation. The princess has gone to rest, he continued with a snort. I do not think she was prepared to become my consort. Lauraai processed this slowly. So one must be prepared for that? Cypher turned toward her. Willing, he corrected deliberately, his voice lowering. Willing is the more accurate word. Lauraai couldn't help it. A short, sharp laugh escaped her. Oh, so you like women who actually want it? She crossed her arms. How noble of you. Naturally, Cypher replied. A bond is unlikely to form if my consort is not... He began to approach her slowly, step by step, closing the distance until he stood right in front of her, towering over her. Lauraai's breathing grew shallow. Her lips parted. She watched his pupils expand, swallowing the color until only a thin ring of fire remained. Well? Cypher asked. Lauraai blinked. Well, what? His gaze grew even more intense. Are you willing, princess? Her breath faltered. Heat spread through her body, a wave that began low in her abdomen and moved outward. He was asking, right now, tonight. Her mind raced while her body already knew the answer. She had the poison. This was the chance she had been waiting for. Her lips parted, but no words came. Cypher exhaled. His hand rose slowly, and one finger touched her cheek with unsettling gentleness. The touch sent a jolt through her. I suppose not, he said quietly. Then he turned away as if releasing her. Wait, Lauraai breathed. But Cypher did not stop, continuing to walk, calm and assured. Panic tightened her throat. Wait, She couldn't miss this chance. You may return to your chambers, princess, he said, moving toward a decanter of wine. I will not keep you. It felt like a slap. Lauraai searched desperately for something. Actually, among humans, we usually have a drink first, she said, gesturing toward the wine. You know, get acquainted. Cypher finally looked at her, raising a brow. Really? There was skepticism in his voice. How curious. The condescension in his tone sparked her irritation. Excuse me, she said sharply, but you cannot expect me to just... She gestured helplessly. Your Highness, if you are uncomfortable, you may leave. Cypher pointed toward the door. Nothing is keeping you here. Lauraai's pride flared. I am not uncomfortable. On the contrary, I am quite comfortable. Cypher snorted. Actually snorted with laughter, the sound deep and warm. That's not what I meant, Lauraai said, realizing what she had said. Good. He beckoned her with one finger. Just that, a simple gesture. Come here. She found it unbearably irritating. The arrogance, the confidence. On the other hand, that was exactly why she was here, to get close enough to poison him. Cypher waited. Well? Lauraai blinked. Well, what? His smile sharpened. Come. He paused. Seduce me. Lauraai froze. What? Cypher leaned back against the windowsill, crossing his arms, and simply waited. Seduce me, he repeated. Show me why I shouldn't call one of the other disposable human princesses and keep you instead. Laurai's hand moved before her mind could react. A slap. Her palm struck his cheek, the sound echoing through the room. Silence. Then Cypher laughed. He turned toward her, his eyes gleaming with genuine amusement. And Lauraai trembled with pure, blazing fury. "How dare you?" Her voice was low and dangerous. "How dare you speak to me as if I were some—" Cypher straightened abruptly. In an instant, he was beside her, towering over her. "How dare I?" His voice dropped, deathly quiet. "I told you that you could leave." He leaned closer. "You chose to stay." His gaze pinned her. "Presumably because you want to become my consort, or even my wife. Otherwise, why are you here?" Lauraai opened her mouth, but before she could answer, he leaned in. His lips brushed her ear, and a shiver ran through her body. "Unless—" His breath burned against her skin. "You are here for another reason. To kill me, perhaps?" Lauraai's breath caught. "Did you really think I wouldn't know?" Cypher said softly, almost gently, which made it worse. Then his hand settled on her lower back. Warm through the fabric, it pulled her toward him, his bare chest pressing against her, every line of muscle distinct. She gasped. The sensation was too much, and her hands were already sliding over his chest, over hot, smooth skin, over taut muscles. She felt him react, felt his control begin to slip. "I have powers you cannot even imagine, Princess." His lips brushed her neck. "And an entire army of informants." His hand spread across her back, possessive. "Not all of them are dragons." His breath touched her throat. "Some of them may have been your friends." He pressed into the curve of her neck, and Lauraai trembled. She tried to say something. Cypher lifted his head, meeting her gaze. "If you want to succeed—" His gaze dropped to her lips, lingering there. "You should be a little smarter." His thumb slid slowly up her spine. His gaze returned to her lips. Lauraai finally found her voice. "I am not trying to kill you," she whispered. Cypher's brow arched. "Really?" Lauraai shook her head. "No." The lie hung between them. They both knew it was a lie. And then Lauraai reached for him herself and kissed him. It was like lightning and fire. Every cell in her body ignited at once. Cypher responded immediately, his hand gripping her hair, tilting her head the way he wanted. The kiss deepened, neither of them gentle. His tongue touched hers, and her knees nearly gave out. She made a soft sound. Cypher answered with a low groan. His hands tightened on her, and suddenly they were moving. He stepped back, guiding her with him, still kissing her until her back hit the wall. The impact knocked the air from her lungs, but she didn't care. His body pressed her against the stone, all that heat and strength pinning her there, his lips still on hers, his hands everywhere. And suddenly Cypher pulled away, leaving her breathless and lost in sensation. "Good night, Princess," he said, breathing heavily. "You may return to your chambers." Lauraai stared at him, too stunned to move. And Cypher was already turning away, as if nothing had happened, as if that kiss, that reality-shattering kiss, had meant nothing. Chapter 4. Lauraai had spent 3 days in the Dragon Emperor's palace since that kiss, and she had not seen him once since. She was here to kill him, not to long for him. Unfortunately, her body did not seem to understand that. Every night she woke from dreams she could not fully remember. His hands on her skin, his lips leaving fire along her neck. It was humiliating. And it was his fault. It had to be some kind of spell. She had been married before, and had never felt such a desperate, tearing need. That evening, Lauraai stood on the balcony, staring at a plate of food she had no appetite for. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, reminding her too much of his eyes. Everything reminded her of him. She poured herself some wine, took a long drink, then another. Below stretched the city, and above it, dragons. Several large silhouettes circled in the air, outlined against the fading light. They were beautiful, Lauraai had to admit. The way they moved, with such power and precision. One dragon in particular caught her attention, larger than the others, with black scales gleaming in the dusk. Sparks of lightning flickered along its wings, faint, like dancing arcs. Lauraai leaned forward, forgetting about her glass. She knew, deep in her bones, that it was him. Cypher. Heat spread through her body again at the mere thought of his name. The dragon circled the palace once, then again, before diving sharply downward. Lauraai's breath caught as it leveled out at the last moment and landed somewhere out of her sight. She imagined him shifting form, scales disappearing into skin. She drained her glass and immediately poured another. He was not going to choose her. Now she understood that. 3 days had passed. 3 days he had spent with other princesses. He had invited her here not because he wanted her, but because he knew she was a threat. Which meant that if she wanted a chance to complete her mission, she would have to create it herself. I'll have to seduce him. The thought echoed with heat in her body. She would need to be clever, strategic, because he had some kind of influence over her, some kind of spell that made her lose control when he was near. Lauraai poured more wine. The world softened, blurred at the edges. She would need to catch him alone, make herself irresistible. She could do it. She would do it. Another glass, just in case. By the time Lauraai stood, stars were already appearing in the sky, and the balcony swayed slightly. She grabbed the railing, blinked. It didn't matter. Time to find the Dragon Emperor. In the palace corridors, the walls seemed to drift. Lauraai placed a hand on the wall as guards appeared behind her. The taller one cleared his throat. Your Highness, perhaps you should return to your chambers. Lauraai waved a hand. I'm going to the Emperor. The nod made everything spin. The guards exchanged glances. Your Highness, it is late, perhaps in the morning. No, now. Lauraai moved forward. The problem was, she did not know where Cypher's chambers were. But somehow her feet knew the way. She turned left, then right, then climbed the staircase. There was a warmth in her chest, a pooling sensation, as if a thread connected her to something far away. And then she was standing before those same massive doors. One of the guards stepped forward. Your Highness, I really think... Lauraai pressed a finger to his lips. I've got this. She knocked, hard at first, then harder when there was no immediate answer. Your Majesty, her voice echoed. I know you're in there. The door swung open, and he was there. Candlelight cast shadows across his chest, his hair slightly damp. Well, well, Lauraai said. Cypher's brow lifted. Well, well, here, in my room? Lauraai smiled broadly and tried to step inside with confident grace, but her foot caught on the threshold and she pitched forward with a soft cry. Cypher's hands caught her instantly at the waist, and suddenly they were touching again. She could see the pulse beating in his neck. Her hands came to rest on his chest and began to move, exploring upward along his shoulders. Gods, his shoulders. Then back down across his chest, over his abdomen, hard as stone. Lower. His hand caught her wrist. Lauraai, he warned. She lifted her gaze. His eyes were glowing brighter than ever, almost gold. His jaw was tight. I can't help it, she told him. It's your fault for enchanting me, because... He swallowed. Enchanting you? Yes. She swayed, and he steadied her. You put a spell on me. Cypher studied her for a long moment. "You've been drinking, haven't you, Lauraai?" The way he said her name made her insides tighten. "Not at all," she said confidently, then paused. "Well, maybe a little." "A little," he repeated. "A bit more than I should have," Lauraai admitted as the room tilted. "But that doesn't matter, because I need to tell you something important." "Do you?" His thumbs slowly traced circles on her waist. "Yes, I hate you." "You hate me?" "I hate that I can't stop thinking about you," she clarified. Cypher winced. "Lauraai." "Every night I dream about you," she went on. "That kiss, your hands." She lifted her hands to his neck, her fingers tangling in his hair. "What did you do to me?" His hands tightened on her waist, almost painfully. "You're drunk," he said, but his voice wavered. "You need to leave," he said. "I don't want to." Lauraai moved closer, feeling the heat of his body through the fabric of her dress. Her hands slid from his hair down his neck, over his shoulders. "This is a bad idea," Cypher muttered, but he did not let her go. His hands were still on her waist. For a moment, she thought he would kiss her. She wanted it so badly, it stole her breath. He leaned in. His lips came close to hers, only inches away. She could feel his breath, and suddenly, he stopped. "You need water," he said, stepping back. Lauraai swayed without his support. "And something for the hangover." He moved to the table, putting distance between them. "I won't have a hangover," she protested. "I feel fine." It was a lie. She was hot, dizzy, her whole body aching. But he was there. Cypher returned with a glass, the liquid inside faintly glowing. "Drink," he said. "It's for the hangover." She took the glass, sniffed it suspiciously. "If you poison me, I will be very angry," she declared, and he smiled. He looked at her in a way that made her chest tighten. "You're cute when you pretend you don't want to kiss me," she murmured. Fatigue hit her all at once. The wine, the medicine, the tension of the past days. Her legs gave out. Cypher caught her before she fell, lifting her easily, one arm under her knees, the other supporting her back. Lauraai's head fell against his shoulder. She felt him exhale, felt him press his face briefly into her hair. "You will be the death of me, princess," he said quietly. Lauraai smiled, already drifting to sleep. Chapter 5. Lauraai opened her eyes and stared at the familiar ceiling. The last thing she remembered was falling asleep in Cypher's arms. She sat up abruptly. She was still in her dress, but someone, him, had carefully tucked her under the blanket. The memories came crashing back all at once. Wine. Too much wine. The decision to seduce him. Lauraai covered her face with her hands and groaned. He had carried her through the entire palace without waking her. She forced herself to wash and dress. When she came out, breakfast was already waiting. She sat down, absently breaking pieces of bread, replaying everything in her mind. What would she say when she saw him? A knock at the door made her heart leap. "Come in," she said. Cypher entered, and Lauraai froze. He closed the door, leaned against it with his arms crossed, wearing that same unbearable smile. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Cypher's brow lifted. "Good morning to you too, princess." He walked to the table, his gaze flicking over the barely touched breakfast. "I came to make sure you sobered up." Lauraai flushed. "I am perfectly sober, and I was sober yesterday as well." His smile widened. "Really?" He picked up her cup, took a slow sip without breaking eye contact. "So you were sober when you burst into my room and started touching me?" Lauraai stood abruptly. "I did not burst in." "Of course," he tilted his head. You walked in confidently, he smirked, straight into my arms. Her face burned. You caught me yourself. You could barely stand. If you were sober, then everything you said... A trap. If she had been sober, she had confessed. If not, she had shown weakness. You are insufferable, she said. And whatever I said, I didn't mean any of it. Cypher stepped closer. Nothing? Not even that I enchanted you? Her breath hitched. Or that you can't forget our kiss? His breath brushed her skin. Lauraai closed her eyes. I was under the influence. He pulled back just enough to meet her gaze. Of wine, of course. Of course. He did not sound convinced. So you do not find me attractive? Lauraai lifted her chin. Not at all. You are quite... ordinary. Really? His brow arched. His fingers touched her chin. You didn't say that yesterday. I was joking. He leaned closer, bracing one hand on the table. With the other, he cupped her face. Really? She could not look away from his lips. Your pupils are dilated, he said softly, tracing a finger over her lower lip. Your breathing is uneven. Your pulse, his hand brushed her neck, elevated. He leaned even closer. You amuse me, princess. Lauraai blinked. What? Amuse me, he repeated. More than anyone has in centuries. His fingers brushed a strand of hair from her face. Your stubbornness, your terrible attempts to lie. The way you look at me, as if you can't decide whether to kiss me or kill me. Lauraai's breathing grew uneven. That is why I intended to make you my consort, he said, running his finger along her lip. If you agree. His gaze burned into hers. Do you agree, Lauraai? The question hung between them. You are not going to make me your consort. She placed a hand on his chest. I am going to make you my lover. Cypher stilled. His breathing quickened beneath her palm. Is that so? He murmured. Lauraai nodded. He watched her for a long moment. Then his hand lifted her chin. Very well, he said quietly. His lips brushed her ear. Because you will never be able to give me a child if you are not willing. His teeth grazed her earlobe and she gasped. Guilt washed over her. She could not give him children. She should tell him. But his lips were already at her neck. She would tell him later. Cypher kissed her again, and Lauraai forgot everything. The guilt, the plan, the necklace with the poison. She responded just as fiercely. He lifted her, set her on the table, stepped between her knees, kissed her again. His lips moved along her neck, her jaw, behind her ear. The bedroom, he said hoarsely. Yes, please. He lifted her, and she wrapped her legs around him. Then he set her down on the bed. She ran her hands over his chest. You're beautiful, she whispered. Something flickered across his face. And you are... His gaze moved slowly over her. He kissed her shoulder, her collarbone. Perfect, he whispered. Chapter 6. The days blurred together. There was only him, them. Every moment ended the same way, tangled, breathless, and began again. On the training grounds, in the library, in the garden at night, he found her everywhere. She became addicted to him, to his touch, to him. The necklace with the poison lay in a drawer, untouched. Every night she told herself, tomorrow, but tomorrow became later. That night, they were having dinner when Cypher suddenly stopped. What? She asked. He stood abruptly, lifted her, kissed her. I need you, he whispered. Now. Dishes scattered, wine spilled, staining the tablecloth. "You're driving me mad," he murmured. "I can't think about anything but you." And she could feel it, his need. "I need you," he breathed against her neck. "Every moment, not enough." "Yes," she could barely speak. "Yes, I know." Much later, when they lay intertwined in his enormous bed, Lauraai found herself thinking she had never felt such a connection with anyone. "What is this?" she whispered, pressing against his chest. "This connection. Why do I feel everything you feel?" "The mating bond," Cypher answered, stroking her hair. "It forms between true partners." Lauraai lifted her head. "Partners?" He met her gaze. "Dragons have one true mate. Our souls recognize each other." His finger traced her cheek. "This bond allows us to share sensations, emotions." His face grew serious, vulnerable. "I knew it the moment I saw you at the ball, Lauraai," he admitted, "that you were mine." Her breath caught as she remembered that first look across the hall. "I thought it was a spell," she said quietly. "So did I," he laughed, pulling her closer. "But it was just the bond, just fate telling me you are mine." Hope lit his face. "And that means you can give me a child," he said, his hand resting on her stomach. Lauraai froze. Cold spread through her body. "A child," she repeated. Cypher didn't notice. "I need an heir," he continued. "The Empire requires it." "But it's not just that." His voice softened. "I have been alone too long, Lauraai. 1,000 years of duty, responsibility, loneliness." Through the bond, she felt it. The loneliness, deep and aching. She almost cried. "I want a family," he went on. "I want to watch a child grow, to teach them, protect them." He looked at her, and that vulnerability was breaking her. "I want that with you." Lauraai felt like she was drowning. Guilt pressed down, suffocating. She could not give him that. She could not give him children. Cypher rose onto his elbow. "Marry me," he said. Her heart stopped. "What did you say?" He smiled. "Become my empress, my wife." His fingers touched her chin. She looked at him, unable to speak. Through the bond, his feelings poured into her. Certainty, calm, expectation of her agreement. But her silence stretched. His smile faltered. "Lauraai?" His voice grew quiet. "You don't want to?" His vulnerability was breaking her. She felt his fear, his hope, and his love. He loved her. The guilt suffocated her. She couldn't. But then a thought pierced her. Cold, sharp. "It doesn't matter. I will kill him before he ever finds out." The thought brought no relief, so she simply kissed him, desperately, trying to say what she could not put into words. He responded immediately. Through the bond, relief flooded into her. He took her kiss as agreement, and she let him believe it. This time it was slower, gentler. He was almost reverent. His joy, his love, all of it flowed through the bond. His certainty that this was forever. It was breaking her. "I love you," he whispered. "Gods, I love you." She let him believe it was happiness, not a breaking heart. When Cypher soon fell asleep, his head resting on her shoulder, his hand on her waist, she watched him. His face was peaceful. "I love him," she realized. "I'm in love with him." He wanted to marry her, wanted a family, and she could not give him children. And she had come here to kill him. Her hand trembled as she touched his hair. Would she be able to do it? He murmured softly in his sleep as she carefully slipped out of bed. She couldn't stay. She would break. Lauraai put on a robe, slipped out quietly. She returned to her chambers and realized with surprise that she had not been alone here for a long time. At last, a voice came from the shadows. She turned sharply. Caspian! Her brother stepped into the moonlight. He looked tired, tense. What are you doing here? She asked sharply. Waiting for you, he replied. To remind you why we're here, what you promised. Casp, it's time, Lauraai. His voice turned cold. Time to kill the Dragon Emperor. Chapter 7. We have to kill him today, Caspian said, before his influence over you becomes permanent. Lauraai shook her head. He didn't enchant me. It's not that. You've barely left his chambers for 2 months, he cut in. 2 months. She tried to remember the last time she had slept in her own bed, and couldn't. It's not magic, she said weakly. Well, magic, but not like that. It's a mating bond. It's real. Do you hear yourself? Caspian grabbed her shoulders. You sound obsessed. Doubt crept into her. I know what I feel. Do you? He released her. Do you remember why we're here? What they did? To Elvina? Guilt washed over her. I remember. He's at the center of it all, Caspian continued. Every dragon answers to him. If we kill him, we weaken them. As his empress, I could do more, she argued. Caspian laughed. His empress? He already offered you that? Yes, he loves me. I don't doubt it, he said quietly. But what happens when he finds out you're barren? She froze. Do you think he'll still make you empress? She couldn't answer. At best, you'll be his consort, Caspian said. And consorts don't end wars. The doubt grew stronger. He wants an heir, Caspian continued. And for that, he'll do anything. He said he loves me, she whispered. Maybe. Caspian pulled her into an embrace. But love doesn't change his priorities. He explained about dragons, about their struggles with having children, about how Cypher was searching for a human who could bear him an heir. And everything fell into place. The ball, the princesses, the trial. You're one of many, Caspian said. Tears streamed down her face. If you die trying to give him a child, he'll simply find another, he whispered. She collapsed to the floor. She loved him. But could she trust that love? We have to protect our own, Caspian said, just as they protect theirs. Elvina, the scream, the helplessness. You have to do this, he said. Her thoughts were tearing apart. She loved Cypher, but if he was using her, if he was risking her life... She closed her eyes. I will do my duty, she whispered. Her voice was empty. Chapter 8. The guards at Cypher's door were not surprised when she approached. The doors opened. The room was dark, only moonlight, and him. Cypher slept, sprawled across black sheets. His hand rested where she had lain before. He slept turned toward her side, as if searching for her, even in sleep. I love you, Lauraai thought, standing in the doorway, clutching the necklace with the poison. She couldn't move, only watch, and feel her heart breaking. She loved him, and he had betrayed her. But that had not stopped him from courting multiple women, lying to her that the others were his consorts. She was replaceable, just one of many candidates. Lauraai forced herself to move, one step, then another. She approached the bed. In sleep, he looked younger, calmer. The same man who had held her at night, the man she was about to kill. The bed dipped slightly under her weight, and Cypher stirred at once, his hand finding her thigh. That touch almost broke her. Her hand trembled as she pulled the stopper from the vial of poison. She leaned over him, bringing the vial closer. She remembered Elvina's scream when the dragon took her. This is your duty. But looking at his face, she only wanted to kiss him. She reached out with her free hand and touched his lips. Her fingers traced their shape. "I love you," she thought desperately. "I'm sorry." The vial touched his lips, and in that moment, his eyes opened. Everything stopped. Then he smiled. That same smile that had undone her from the beginning. "Can't sleep?" he murmured sleepily. In that voice he used only with her, or so she thought. His gaze began to close again, trusting. And then he saw the vial. The smile vanished. "Lauraai?" he asked, confused. His gaze sharpened. He looked at the glass vial, and understanding began to dawn. "What is that?" She tried to pull away, but his hand suddenly caught her wrist. "Lauraai?" His voice changed. Alarm crept into it. You are trying to poison me?" He said it as if he couldn't believe it. She met his gaze. His face was breaking. Not all at once, but slowly. Through the bond, everything crashed into her. Pain, shock, disbelief. "Why?" he whispered. That question shook her so deeply that anger filled the void. She tore her hand free and stepped back. He rose from the bed at once. "How dare you ask?" she shouted. "What? What did I do, Lauraai?" he cut in. "Other than fall in love with you?" She turned sharply. "And what is your love worth if it means nothing?" Her voice trembled. If it didn't stop you from betraying me." Cypher looked as if he had been struck. "Betray you?" he repeated. "How?" "I know you courted the other princesses," she said. "I know you offered them the same thing, to become your empress, to give you a child." "No." His face went pale, and through the bond she felt guilt. So it was true. "That was before." "Before what?" she cut in. "Before I realized you were my mate." His voice rose. "My other half." "Really?" Lauraai nodded sharply. "But before that, you were perfectly willing to risk our lives, forcing us to endanger ourselves trying to give you a child." Her voice turned cold. "Tell me, Cypher, were you planning to warn me that pregnancy would most likely kill me? Or were you going to wait until I was already carrying your child?" He looked stunned. "That's not true. You're my mate. The bond will protect you. I would never." "And the others?" she cut in. "Who will protect them?" "I didn't even sleep with them," he said. "I only discussed the possibility, in case the bond didn't form." "I don't believe you." Through the bond she felt his pain. "Caspian said," she continued. "He's lying." Cypher stepped closer. "You are my only one. I swear it." "Why should I believe you?" she shouted. "When you've used humans for centuries?" "I never demanded sacrifices," he snapped. "You chose to offer them out of fear." He ran a hand through his hair. "We didn't deny it, because if you are willing to believe the worst without proof, why should we trust you?" "Seriously?" Lauraai laughed. "Our numbers are dwindling," he said. "Dragon children are not being born." "You took sacrifices." "To leave you in peace," he said quietly. "We didn't harm them. They live among us." "How am I supposed to believe you?" She fell silent, then added softly, "When you could have chosen any of us, and it wouldn't have changed anything." Cypher recoiled. "How can you say that?" "Because it's true." Her voice broke. "Me or them? What difference does it make if all you need is an heir?" "You think I would lie?" he asked. She said nothing. She could feel his pain, but Caspian's words echoed in her mind. "Yes," she whispered. "Because you are an emperor. It is your duty, just like mine is to kill you." Cypher went still. "Fine," he said quietly. He held out his hand. "Give it to me." She understood. He meant the poison. With trembling hands, she gave him the vial. She expected him to call the guards, but he didn't. He looked at the vial, then at her, and slowly brought it to his lips. "What are you doing?" she cried. "Showing you that you can trust me," he said calmly. "Stop!" "You'll save me," he said softly, and drank. Chapter 9. For a moment, nothing. He stood in the moonlight. Then his breath faltered. His hand clutched his chest. His eyes widened. "What did you do?" Lauraai cried, grabbing his face. His skin was already growing cold. "Cypher!" He was breathing heavily. "I'm fine. Or I will be," he said. Through the bond she felt the poison, like darkness spreading inside him. "Guards!" she shouted. The doors burst open. "Healers!" But Cypher was already losing consciousness. He fell. She barely caught him. His head ended up in her lap. "Cypher, stay with me." He looked at her with a hazy gaze. "Why did you want this?" She broke into sobs. "Why did you do this?" He touched her hand. "I thought you wanted." Those words pierced her. "No," she was crying. "I was angry. I didn't want." "Angry? At me?" She felt his pain. "Stay, please." "I am always with you," he whispered. "You are mine." His eyes closed. "No!" She struck his cheek. "Don't fall asleep." The doors burst open. Healers rushed in. "He's poisoned," she said. "That's impossible." "It's possible," she whispered. "I gave him the poison." The guards froze. "Arrest her!" "No," Cypher's voice sounded. He grabbed her hand. "She is my future empress." Everyone fell silent. "I poisoned myself," Lauraai sobbed. "This is my fault." He touched her face. "You are my mate. You can save me." "I'm not a healer." "You don't need to be," he said. He was weakening. "Only you can." His hand fell. His body went limp. "Cypher!" She tried to wake him. Nothing. Through the bond, she felt the poison spreading. "I don't understand." The chief healer said, "Through the mating bond, life force can be transferred." "But I'm not a dragon." "That doesn't matter," she replied, and leaned closer. "One dragon king has already survived this. He was saved by his human mate." Poisoned arrows. He was supposed to die within hours. A memory flashed in Lauraai's mind. That girl they had tried to save, Oilia. The great white dragon she had struck with 3 poison arrows. "Try," the healer insisted. "You are the Emperor's meat. If anyone can save him, it's you." Lauraai looked down at Cypher. His face was pale. His lips were turning blue. She pressed her palms to his chest and tried. Closed her eyes and reached for the bond between them. Nothing. "It's not working," she said in panic. "Keep going," the healer replied. "Focus on the bond, on what connects you." But all Lauraai felt was him slipping away. "What if one of the other princesses?" she asked desperately. "Maybe they could." "The Emperor has no bond with anyone else," the healer said firmly. "A true mate is rare, once in a lifetime. There are no others." The words struck her like lightning. There are no others. And Cypher had drunk the poison. Real poison. The kind that was killing him right now. He had done it deliberately, so she would understand. Stupid. Stubborn. Arrogant. Beautiful dragon. Fury flared inside her, hot and pure. It pushed out the fear. "How dare you!" Lauraai growled, pressing her hands harder against his chest. "You don't get to die to prove a point, you idiot!" Something shifted. Warmth appeared beneath her palms, faint at first, then growing stronger. "It's working!" someone gasped. But Lauraai didn't hear. She focused on the bond, on the golden thread connecting her to Cypher, on giving everything. "You are mine," she thought fiercely, "and I will not let you go." The light grew brighter, spilling from beneath her fingers. She felt her strength flowing into him. "Come back to me. That's an order." Cypher gasped sharply. His eyes flew open, shining almost white. Everyone gasped. Through the bond, she felt it, the cold retreating, the pain fading, warmth returning. "Cypher?" He found her gaze immediately, smiled, then frowned when he saw the tears on her face. "Lauraai?" His hand lifted and touched her cheek. "You saved me." "Idiot!" she shouted, grabbing his shoulders. "You could have died!" And she kissed him, with desperation, with relief, with love. He responded, pulling her closer despite his weakness. When they pulled apart, he was still smiling. "I love you," he said softly, and Lauraai laughed through her tears. Epilogue. 3 months later, Lauraai lay in silk sheets beside her husband, her mate. He kissed her, her temples, her cheek, her lips, as if he could never have enough. "I love you," he whispered. "I know," she smiled, then more quietly, "and I love you." Through the bond, she felt his happiness, warm, golden, certain. 3 months of marriage, and he still looked at her like a miracle. But she needed to tell him something. Her smile faltered. She placed her hand on his chest. "Cypher, do you remember I said I was barren?" His expression changed instantly, softness, pain. He touched her face. "My love, you are my mate. That will not change. I have you. That is all I need." Her heart tightened with love. She kissed him to stop him. "I know," she said, "and I'm glad that's enough for you." He smiled. "You are more than enough." "But," Lauraai smiled wider, "it turns out I'm pregnant." Cypher went still. "What?" She laughed. "I didn't believe it either. The healers confirmed it 3 times. He slowly placed his hand on her stomach. "You're going to be a father," she said. He simply looked at her, and then laughed. Pure joy flooded through the bond. He pulled her close and kissed her. "A child. Our child." "Yes," she said, laughing through tears. And lying in his arms, feeling his hand on her stomach, Lauraai silently thanked fate. She had come to kill him, and found everything she hadn't even known she needed. And so, the story of Lauraai and Cypher comes to an end. Thank you to each of you for walking this path with me, from hatred and pain to a love that changed everything. This story is about how even enemies can become the most important thing in life, and how feelings can be stronger than fear, duty, and the past. I would love to know, which moments touched you the most? What did you feel at the finale when everything fell into place? And perhaps you would like to see a continuation of this universe. Other stories about dragons and humans? Be sure to write about it in the comments. Also write where you're watching from and what time it is for you now. Subscribe so you don't miss new stories. See you soon!